Well, now for the other side of this debate, Andrew Cooper is the president of LibertyWorks, which champions free markets and personal liberty. LibertyWorks has also been appearing as part of this High Court hearing today. Thanks for your time this afternoon. So just explain to me why you think there is a problem with these laws, particularly in Victoria and Tasmania, the two jurisdictions the High Court is looking at.
Well, I think you nailed it in that interview, David. They're unnecessary. There are laws that deal with harassment and intimidation. I noticed there was a bit of a dance around that subject, but the fact is that those laws do exist. This law is way over the top. It's making peaceful protesters criminals. I repeat that. People don't understand this. This is a criminal code issue. It's subject in Tasmania to 12 months jail. It's way over the top, and it's totally unnecessary because there's no peaceful protester under pre-existing laws that could stop anyone from entering an abortion clinic.
Well, the answer to that from Adrian Walters, the lawyer we just spoke to there, was that under the existing laws, there was still a fair bit of harassment going on. She cited particularly people with signs of dismembered fetuses, images of the Holocaust, all of this being put in the face of women entering these clinics. Do you agree that that was still happening despite the pre-existing laws?
I assume it has happened because she said it did. I don't think there was really much of a problem prior in any case, but there's notwithstanding that there were some physical issues that occurred at some of these abortion clinics, which should have been dealt with by the enforcement agencies at the time. They weren't, and they've been using this as a sort of a Trojan horse to bring in these laws that don't, they don't achieve a lot more except shut down peaceful protest. You're talking about some distasteful images, and I agree. Distasteful images are exactly that, and culturally we shouldn't really be accepting those. But we don't need laws for that, David. Distasteful images can appear anywhere. I mean, why is it that a pregnant woman can't see a distasteful image within 150 metres but can see it outside of 150 metres? Why is it that a pregnant woman can't deal with distasteful images, but the rest of us can? I mean, this law really, in effect, diminishes pregnant women. It makes them lesser because the law says that they're not capable of dealing with things that the rest of us adults do.
Well, look, I guess you're right that they could certainly go past a billboard or a sign anywhere else with those images, with those messages. But do you accept there's something different when a woman, clearly in a vulnerable state, often, no doubt it's a difficult position they're in going to an abortion clinic, has someone pursue them directly and personally, not something they've passed that everyone can see, but they're being pursued individually here and, harassed about the decision they've taken?
Well, I mean, you said it just then, the word harass. There are laws that deal with harassment. What we're concerned about is peaceful protesters trying to get their message out that personally I don't necessarily agree with, but we believe...
But I guess it's where is this line between protest and harassment? It's difficult to draw, I suppose.
Well, I guess when they drew up the harassment and intimidation laws and the move-on laws that are available in most states, they considered those issues. If they were defective in some way, then perhaps they should have gone and revisited those particular laws and maybe strengthened them up a little bit. But what we got here is new laws that make it a criminal offence, subject to jail term, to stand near an abortion clinic with a placard.
So just constitutionally here, explain to us what the grounds are for the case that you're certainly supporting against these laws. Where is this at odds? These laws, where are they at odds with the Constitution?
Yeah, so I'm not a lawyer, so I won't give you the lawyer's version, but simplistically, there's an implied right to free speech in the Constitution, and that's been validated over many test cases over many decades. And that is butting up against the rights of state governments to make new law that may diminish free speech. So the legislative
state governments clearly can make laws on a whole range of fronts, and we have defamation laws. We do have laws that do prevent certain types of, what you'd call free speech. Yes,
we do. And on this particular issue, it's uncertain where the High Court will fall on the matter. For us, as LibertyWorks, that's almost an irrelevance, though, because it's one thing to say that a law is valid. It's another thing to say whether that law should be introduced, whether it's a moral law, and we would argue that it's not.
Well, would you then also support any sort of free speech? Would you like to see, defamation laws removed, any sort of Racial Discrimination Act removed? Would you like all areas of free speech to be legal?
Yeah, certainly we would like to see the 18C, we would like to see the Human Rights Commission, to be perfectly honest, abolished. I mean, it's unnecessary. I think the best disinfectant to a silly argument is to have it out in the open and have it debated. And what a lot of these laws do is they suppress debate. They don't allow us to grow as individuals. They treat us like we're incapable of hearing such debate, seeing such images. And what that does is that diminishes us all as a society. It doesn't just diminish these pregnant women that understandably may be in a very, in a very difficult situation and struggling internally with their decisions that they're about to make. We totally understand that, but that's how we all grow. We've got to get these arguments out in the open. Yeah. We've got to debate them.
But just on that, I mean, you acknowledge it's a difficult position they're in, these women. They're vulnerable at that moment. What's wrong at the end of the day with saying, make all your protests you like down the road, but leave them alone when they're just about to walk into the clinic?
Yeah, so one way to answer that question is to put yourselves in the shoes of the protesters. So we can sort of put ourselves in the shoes of the people going into the abortion clinic. We understand that they may be struggling. But if you're in the shoes of the protesters, some of those protesters firmly believe that a murder is about to be committed. Now, you and I may not agree with that, but if that is a firmly held belief, that is very, very upsetting for them as well. And what this legislation does is it chooses whose feelings are valid. It's a state making decisions about who is right, whose feelings are worth more than the other. Now...
And that's the bottom line. You don't think the state should be doing that?
No, I don't think so. Of course not. I don't.
It should ultimately be the Constitution, and, well, I guess that's what the High Court is there to interpret.
Well, I mean, all great liberal democracies have been built. One of the cornerstones has been, a free speech, building block, and we're gradually losing that bit by bit by bit. It's the thin edge of the wedge. You touched on it in your interview previously. What is the difference between a young man or woman trying to access a workplace where there's a union dispute and there's a picket line and they're getting yelled abuse and things thrown at them and being called scabs? I mean, if we're being consistent about this, we should extend similar laws to those workplaces. Max Branner, which just recently...
Well, OK, but just on that, just on that, I guess, slippery slope argument, is there a difference, though, between an industrial dispute and a woman, we're talking about a physical issue for the woman, not to mention a clearly emotional and psychological one, as well as they're about to have an abortion. There is a difference there, isn't there?
Well, the only difference is the nature of the feelings, and the feelings are owned by the individual. So we cannot tell, you and I cannot tell who... I mean, two women walk into an abortion clinic, one may be fine, the other one may be upset and very fragile. We don't know. Those feelings are owned by those individuals. We don't know the feelings of the industrial worker trying to enter and go to work.
If you don't know, though, with respect, and you're right, we're two blokes sitting here talking about it. If you and I don't know, who are we to say, what this is doing to them?
Well, I mean, the issue then is if you accept then that the feelings drive the legislation, then that's the slippery slope. Because
right, people have got to go, Andrew Cooper. OK. Look, interesting points you make, and it is going to be a fascinating case that we won't hear a decision on probably for some months yet, but the hearing to take place over the next few days. Andrew Cooper from LibertyWorks, appreciate your time. Thank you.